direction from to Mugahinga, I think I will follow it same as I'm going to do for the 2 kilometers, so that we don't have a dead end, but the road must be able to connect somewhere. So we'll have our engineers get down on ground to make sure that this is also picked, but we'll engage Minister of Tourism so that we check whether this is in their database for us to include it in our plans. But certainly I'll follow the same procedure so that we bring this to the attention of Minister of Finance with this justification that we provided, instead of us having a dead-end road. In terms of the roads which are constructed by CAIP and submitted, I will follow up with the engineer-in-chief, because this is under his docket, to carry out an assessment so that he recommends to the minister for roads to be taken over as national roads. So I'll be able to forward this to my colleague, the engineer-in-chief, for further processing, so that they can give the district feedback on whether these roads are going to be taken on or not. And Atete Busanza will follow up with URI, and indeed, if it has been gazetted as a border post, there's no reason why this road should not be upgraded. Unfortunately, this will be an assessment that we are going to undertake when we are preparing the NDP4, so that this can be highlighted as one of the key roads where we expect to promote international trade if it is upgraded. So thank you, Chairperson. I think this one I will pick it up so that we can have this upgraded. In terms of maintenance being erratic, my colleague Joseph or team should have responded to this, but indeed, the big challenge, like Edie highlighted, especially from 2019, has been the issue of inadequate funds, maintenance funds, and some of the quarters actually were not receiving allocation, releases, and that made it very difficult for our team to respond or to maintain the roads according to plan. But my colleague Joseph or team would be able to provide better response and how we can prioritize within the meager resources to have these roads, to have maintenance on those tourism roads very consistent. Thank you, moderator. I would be happy to take more questions if there are any.
Thank you, Engineer Wen. Engineer team, thanks for joining in. And because of the constraints of time, we will right away request you to share your presentation with us.
Thank you, Chair Moderator. Sorry, I had an issue with my system, but IT has helped me with it. On the maintenance of the tourism roads, Chair, like Engineer Isaac has highlighted, the biggest constraint that we have is the inadequate budget. What we have done as a strategy is that we have entered into framework contracts with several contractors in every region in the country, so that at any one point in time, when we need to undertake any works or if there are any emergencies, we can just make a call of order immediately for the contractor to take up the works. Even on that emergency on the Kisoro Road currently, we engaged one of our framework contractors to carry out the remedial works. First of all, the immediate and emergency cases, and then the long term. So the biggest constraint is just the budget. We have the contractors in place. We have also our force account. We have equipment at our stations in the 23 stations across the country. So whenever we have a need or the condition of the road has deteriorated, we engage them, we provide them the inputs, the fuel, the sub-fund, and they immediately carry out the implementation of the works. So that's the strategy that we have put in place, such that we should be able to intervene as quickly as possible. These framework contracts are for 3 years, and we have staggered loads. Currently, we have a lot that's taking another 3 years, the first lot ended, and then we have a second one which will take another 2 years. We also had a program of low-cost sales because the conventional upgrading of roads is quite expensive. So we had made a design by engineer Isaac, who was talking here. So we have those designs in place. We have only implemented a few of them. We couldn't roll it out through the country. For these particular cases of some of the tourism roads, because the traffic there is not very high, this could suffice to use low volume sealed roads to have roads that are motorable throughout the year without those issues of slipperiness or washouts. We also had a program which we have put in place. We did carry out a survey throughout the country, and we geo-referenced all the bottlenecks in the country so that at any one point we can intervene, because there are so many areas which we know that when it is rainy season, automatically they will get cut off. So we know all these locations. The issue is to intervene and put permanent structures in those areas so that we don't enter into those kind of scenarios where the roads get cut off. But all these have been put in the plan, have been put in the strategy, but the issue is now the financing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Engineer Otim. I'll take you back a little bit. This discussion this morning was prompted by the repairs of Kabale Kisoro on that part where there is a major fault. It happened in May. For want of a better word, half of the road is gone. There were immediate responses in terms of visiting the place, including some ministers who visited that place. Promises were made, but little is seen on the ground. We are now in end of July. Now, if half of the road is gone, and we are still talking about budget and so on, in our view, it should fit into a priority for the emergency funds that you always have, irrespective of the budget constraints. So we'd like to hear from you specifically about that spot that gave way in May of this year.
Thank you, Chair, for that spot.
Even what prompted us to say, instead of us engaging on the forum, why don't we hear from UNRWA if we can? And we are privileged to have you this morning.
Okay, thank you, Chair. For that section that slipped off on the road there, I think it's Hamurwa, what we did was we immediately did temporary works to lock up that section so that not the entire road would slip off and slide down, because if we had not done that, the entire of that road would not be there now. It would have all moved down. What we did then is we engaged one of our framework contractors called Greystone. When we looked at the scope of the works in there, we saw that some of the items were not available in the contract, because you can only instruct the works that are within the contract. So we decided that we need to get prerequisite approvals that we have now got. So we should be able to finalize and conclude this procurement within this, maybe in the next 2 weeks. Then we can now allow the contractor to do all the works, including those that are not in his framework contract. That's what actually delayed the activity a bit, because to instruct him on works that are not within his contract, the issues of the rate or what payment modalities would be used would create problems and maybe eventually audit queries. But from our assessment, what we did there was to stop the slip failure, to block the slip failure so that it doesn't continue sliding, so that within this short period of time we can try to procure and complete the processes with this framework contractor as the road is still in place and can be used. So that's the process that we are in. Myself and Isaac, who was talking, were deeply involved. Unfortunately, this time there was also overstretching of staff because of Katonga and others. But nonetheless, we are moving. We have almost finalized these activities. And for that matter, for such scenarios, Chair, we do not look at the issue of the budget, because whatever funds are available, we use it for that. We use them for that kind of emergency that has occurred. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Engineer Tim. You did mention that for those interventions, there are some immediate interventions and long-term ones. Now, when you talk about the procurement that is going on, so that you instruct the contractor to do what is supposed to be done, in other words, include what's not in his contract. Is it in the context of long-term interventions for that spot?
It is not long-term intervention. Long-term interventions, it means we shall go back and look at the entire road, because it is not only that section which fails on that road. So the long-term intervention, it means we shall have to, Isaac and his team will go back and carry out detailed engineering designs and assessments of all the entire road, and then see what we can come up with, or the intervention that we need for that road. But this one is only to reinstate that particular section that slipped off, because the road should be motorable, like you rightfully highlighted. It is only half of the road that is used now, and it creates some safety issues and aspects. Some time back, we had a similar scenario on Kabale Katuna. It also collapsed in a similar way. We did the same thing. We just went and first tried to stop the slip failure so that the road remains in place, and then we did some works there. Currently, we have assessment and investigations ongoing on the entire road, Mbarara to Kabale to Katuna, and also to Kisoro. So that one will now inform us of the long-term solution that we shall need, because on that road there is a section that continues also disappearing. I think it just settles, and maybe the subgrade and the subbase are too weak. So DNPE is actually trying to assess the situation there. Either we make an alternative route, we change the alignment completely and use a different route, or we put a bridge along that section. So those are the long-term aspects. This intervention that we are going to do now is short-term. It may collapse again next year or the other year. It is not fully permanent. We shall need to do much more investigations on the entire road and see the permanent solution that we can carry out on the road. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do we have a time frame for those investigations being done, if it is the starting point for the long-term solution? The long-term solution, our major
yes, they are actually ongoing, and maybe Isaac can even put more light. They came in there, they carried out some investigations, and the terrain and the soils there seem to be so complicated, because when they did some of the investigations, they would not find in some of those areas, like that section which settles, they couldn't find the hard ground. was so deep that they couldn't find hard ground there. So they are now on the assessment to see what is the best option, to put a bridge or to do an alternative route in that area, to go around. Maybe it might become a bit longer and whatever. So they are doing assessments of all these alternatives. So this is actually ongoing. It is in advanced stage. So when we finalize, then we can be informed of the scope and the kind of funding that we require. Then we shall go to government and say, this is what we have come up as a long-term solution to solve the challenge.
Any kind of time frame?
The design itself, maybe Isaac could tell us, but normally we should be talking about 6 months or 8 months, because it has been ongoing for the past 6 months. Normally design takes about 1 year. So maybe in 6 months' time, we should be having what kind of long-term solution we need in those areas.
Okay, just for further information, and these are plain eye observations. The Muko area, Gasheregenyi, which has had landslides and issues before, in the bamboo forest, commonly known as Murugano, there are evident potential threats of the road slipping away. And we hope that you people are keenly looking at the entire road than at the hawking when the slippage has happened. Then from the chart, we have a few observations and requests, and I think this goes probably to the engineer one. Nyakabande Torre Road is not mentioned, and it's been mentioned before for upgrading. That section is now not being talked about. There are concerns about that. Then there's a request on the Kisoro Mugahinga Road. There's Soko Parish, it's less than 2 kilometers. Can need to be considered for what engineer team has referred to as low-cost sealing. Those are 2 observations. If anyone has a question before we...
Yes, I have, Chairman.
Please raise your hand after the chairman.
I also have a question, please, Raymond.
Chairman is coming.
Yes, my concern going forward as a country is the response time when a situation occurs. To me, at this level of development, we still really are backward. If a country cannot manage to respond in a month or in a week, actually, if it was China, it would be even in a day, that a backbone road can be closed for more than 2 months. I pass the Katonga with my vehicle. I pass there every day. One day we are going to have a very big catastrophe in Hamrua there, where a bus or 2 will cause severe catastrophe. Nobody is seeing that. I'm a public health specialist. And we shall go there and start speaking good language. We are sorry when many people will have died. That is a black spot. We have how many buses per day that come from Kisoro? More than 15 buses that ply Kisoro and 15 buses going. So about 30 buses passing the same spot. But looks, nobody cares, because even that person who is said to have come to stabilize that road, there is no stability. This man doesn't know what is there. You go and see. There is no work that was done other than a few stones that were thrown somewhere in the ditch. And I cannot be part of a country, a government where I'm chairperson, to start mourning multiple families losing their people just because government is doing framework contracts and these things. Me, I was of the view that a policy be made that even when there is no money, a situation that calls for emergency is responded to emergently. Katonga was supposed to take like 1 week or 1 month. Kisoro here, we have so many stones. If all the equipment of Mbarara and the Kabale was brought on site and they apply all of those stones and put them in that place, a section of less than 100 meters would have been finished. But I want to, without fear of contradiction, I want to tell UNRWA, you are doing a disservice to the people of Uganda when a backbone of a road like Kampala, Kisoro, Goma can spend all those years without those 2 small sections being done. Number 2 is about compensation of people up in Mgahinga who are going to, who are affected by the road that is going to be constructed. The payment is in piecemeal, and some people are paid, others have not been paid, and nobody knows when they will be paid. And lastly, on the good note is that we have all that it takes, I'm assuring you. But lastly, the NRM manifesto shows us that Mutorere Road, Chapa Road, was tamakamized. I don't know whether in your accountability you have that section of money spent on Mutorere Road, because it shows that it was tarmacked and it is not being talked about, and it was closed. We want to open files and see why this section in NRM manifesto was given a complete file when it has not been worked on.
Moderator Raymond's hand is up. Thank you, Chair. We are running out of time.
Hello?
Hello?
Can I chip in after the chairman?
Okay, we have 2 more.
Yes, my name is Raymond Ntwali. I'm a quantity surveyor by profession, registered with the Institution of Surveyors of Uganda. And adding on the chairman's note, that's exactly what I wanted to ask Engineer Otim. Why such a small section at Hamurwa of not even more than 50 meters can take this long time to be responded to vis-a-vis the condition in which the road is. Part of the sections of our road towards Kisoro and Muko, those ones which had road sharing, the shear was treated by using gabions, packed well in phases, and at the end of the day, it was repaired. Can that same approach be used on that road? And like the engineer has said, actually, if you go there, I've passed there like 4 times now, 5. There is no work done that you can claim somebody has started doing something. And besides, why wouldn't they even put barricades so that if you're driving at night, you don't even have any emergency issue? Literally, you can't even, when you get to that site at night, you might not even know that there's a ditch. So if the contractor was deployed and did some hardcore filling and the like, and he left the site empty, whose negligence is that going to be counted on? And another note, like the engineer said, he talked about the contractors who they are put in place, who they'll be issuing LPOs and emergency responses. I would wonder why a whole sector like UNRWA, a whole department, after a budget of a road, does not put aside monies for emergency repairs. This is a road. It's construction. It's anything that needs maintenance. Why wouldn't they have a budget that will handle maintenance rather than inviting contractors on a short notice to come and put in their own money? That is even a cost on government at the end of the day, because a contractor who invests in renovations, his rate is going to be higher than one who is called upon and is going to be given advance payment to do work. That means the cost of repair doubles because they want to use the contractor's money and they'll take long to pay back, which is a big cost on government itself. That should be looked at. Why do you wait for an emergency? Then you can tell somebody to go and use his money to work, who's going to charge you more, yet you can have your reserve for that immediate response. That's a question I wanted to ask Engineer Otim to respond to. My other issue, one issue one issue, Patron. I also want to know what plans do they have for those road trenches in Kisoro town, from Kisoro town to Mutore? What is the plan for those trenches, which have also claimed so many lives? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Raymond. Before Engineer One and Engineer Team come in, I'll take the liberty to answer Raymond with one respect. It is to our advantage to have framework contracts in place for quick response, where call of orders can be made, as opposed to having an emergency and starting a government procurement to attend to an emergency. Especially so when the in-house capacity of UNRWA to respond to emergencies countrywide can never be sufficient. That would be my view. So Engineer One and the Engineer O team, you come in on that. But as you come in, there has also been a concern about a presidential pledge that was made regarding Murora and Wachai roads. And I think that that pledge was even in writing. If time allows, the admin will be able to screen share that a letter to that effect. And this is a very old pledge, 2019. Over to you, Engineer Team and Engineer One.
Thank you, Chair. Let me start by, first of all, saying that we all want good roads. UNRWA per se is most interested in good roads because that is our job. When you have something which is good, you are happy that you are doing what you are supposed to do. However, the situation on the ground is quite different. I will give you an example that this quarter, for us to attend to road maintenance activities and these emergencies throughout the country, our budget, which was provided, allowed for 90 billion for the entire country. But now they have given us 25. Just for you to appreciate and see the dilemma that we have. So now we have to cut this for the entire country so that we can do small bits in each and every area. Then on that section where the road broke up, it's not the contractor who did that temporary work there to key-lock the slide, the landslide. We did it as UNRWA to try to stop the landslide from progressing. Also, when you look at the geotechniques in that area, we have to be careful that you don't just go there and start dumping rock there and gravel and what, because we did that on a Kabale Katuna road, and it was worse. The material became heavy and actually washed up the whole road. Now went off. So we are moving cautiously that this is a delicate situation that we need to handle carefully. If you just go and dump material which is heavy there, even the whole road will go if we are not careful. So that is why we are taking that kind of cautious approach. Barricades, yes, that is right. We need to have signs there. We have been putting there, but I think maybe there is some vandalization and what. I'm going to tell the station again. Even last week, I think 2 weeks ago, somebody sent me a message complaining, and we shall keep doing this. We shall keep putting some barricades and some signs all the time. Then my appeal to the local leadership. What we are witnessing in our country is a serious issue of environmental changes. Many of these areas we never used to experience this kind of scenarios, not only in Kisoro or Katonga, but the entire country. We need, as a country now, to go wider than just intervening and maybe approach other relevant arms of government, and starting maybe from the local leadership to sensitize our people to preserve our environment, because we shall get more of this, they will become worse. So us to start complaining to ourselves will not be the solution. The solution should be all of us to work together and see how best we can solve this kind of situations. The issue of emergency funding, we tried to have an interaction with the Uganda Road Fund at one point in time, but they said because of the limitations and the constraints in the budget, it became very difficult for us to put aside some money, sitting there waiting for emergency when there are already a lot of gaps and debts to pay, because as we talk now, as well, we have a lot of money to pay to contractors that have executed some works. So the situation is that complicated. So the appeal is for us to work together, the local governments, just like sometimes some of the local governments, they help us with equipment when we are constrained, and we intervene in some of these areas. That is the way to go. But to say that maybe to blame one arm that we are not taking care, we are very concerned, and we try our best to try to reinstate those difficult areas or those failed sections amidst all these kind of challenges with the budget that we have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Joseph. I think you've responded to most of the issues. The one I would like to take on is that road of Nyakavande Mtolere, that it's not been mentioned. Like I said, for us to come up with the NDP3 plan, we were given a budget ceiling by Minister of Finance, and we did prioritization of roads. So in Kisoro, the ones I read earlier are the ones which were fitting within the available resources in the medium-term expenditure framework then. And that meant that this other road was underfunded. If the resources were available, additional resources, then this road would be brought on the plan. But like, again, we have seen the resources have even reduced further, and that's why most of those roads which were highlighted have delayed up to now. Works have not commenced on them. Then there is a road that was indicated as tarmacked in the manifesto. Well, I think we should be able to follow up with the Secretariat how that was captured. At least in our records, we have it very clear that that road is due for tarmacking, but it is not tarmac. So we'll take up with the Secretariat and we'll have a discussion so that that can be corrected if indeed it was mentioned so. Now, my colleague responded to emergencies. Indeed, the speed at which we respond from our side is very quick, and then sometimes we are curtailed because of lack of resources. As a government, we are supposed to have contingency funds, which are supposed to be managed by the Office of the Prime Minister. But unfortunately, whenever my colleague in maintenance experiences emergence, it's not possible to tap into those resources. Sometimes they are not there, including even for Katonga. If we had not got a contractor who was willing to do pre-financing, I think even the opening of the road as it is for small vehicles would not be possible. So yes, from our part, we try to do our best, and like my colleague said, in fact, having roads motorable and in good condition is all the interest that we have, and that's what we are supposed to do. There was a request for one road in Mugahinga, in Soko Parish, to be considered for low-cost seal. My colleague Joseph, I think, will need to talk to that to see during the assessment if that can be connected, if it is one of those that is facilitating tourism connection within that area. I think there should be no reason why we can't look at it and consider it if resources are available. There was the other issue of compensation in piecemeal. It's true we should have finalized compensations by now, but like Edie said and my colleague Joseph, it's not that we are lamenting, but I also believe that the district local government has been experiencing this, the issue of releases. Because as we talk now, most of those project affected persons on the Mugahinga Road. I think there are about 1,000, if I can recall well, we have about 1,200 project affected persons. So far, we have paid about 695. We are yet to pay, that's about 50%. Now, the bulk of some of those people are already in account for payment. We carried that forward as debt to be paid this quarter. But this quarter, we've received like a third of the money that is required to pay additional people. So basically, they have to bear with us. It is not in our interest not to pay those people, because we have committed, we have entered an agreement that we are taking their land and they have accepted the token that we've given them. So it is a matter of getting the release and we pay them. So we're hoping that very few will also be paid this period, and others will be next quarter. So the piecemeal payment will basically continue until we complete them, just based on the releases that we get from Minister of Finance. So I think those are the few that I picked. Thank you so much, moderator.
Thank you so much, Engineer Wani. Thank you so much, Engineer Otim. I'm not sure whether the Executive Director will be able to join us again. This had been planned for 1 hour. We are grateful for the extra time that you have given us. I will now request the Chairman Ubuntu to make a final comment. And if the District Chair is there, we'll also request him to grace the closing of this discussion. Again, thank you. It's been very enriching, very informative, and I believe the feedback has been emphatic and it will be helpful in further interactions. What we can promise you is, as Ubuntu, we shall follow up on what has been discussed. So, Chair, over to you. Chair Ubuntu.
Yeah, thank you, moderator. And thank you, the panelists, for the elaborate discussions. There are a number of concerns that have been raised in the chat room which have not been addressed. I want to believe the person responsible for capturing them will do so that we can transmit them to the UNRWA team. As I see, there are a number of other questions which have not been touched. But I want to take this chance to again thank you for giving us a chance to listen to you and understand what is going on in that sector. And thank you for the timely answers. I am pleased to learn from you that the Mugahinga Road is commencing soon, although you did not mention when. But at least once the kick starts, it will be a sign that all the remaining projects will be worked on. So thank you for your time. Thank you, moderator, for guiding this discussion well. Thank you, the members of BUA, for being attentive and attending in big numbers. It could have taken much longer than this, but I think the time cannot allow. So probably next time we shall have a longer discussion on other pertinent issues affecting our district. I thank you and I wish you a blessed day.
This is Voice of Muhabura.
Thank you very much. If Chairperson Kisoro District is on.
Yes, I'm on.
Chair.
Thank you, Ubuntu. I'm very, very much humbled by these initiatives you have started involving the central government and local government as a concerned established group. Ubuntu is a group that if really you can continue doing such a things, there are sleeping lions we can wake up. So one, I thank you. Two, I want you kindly to also involve us at local government level, including those of you in Kampala and the diaspora, and we organize such a Zoom so that some of the rumors around local governance or even facts on the files can be shared by everyone, because we are governing people and people have right to know how they are being governed. I'm a scholar of public health. Two, I would wish that we can also engage another ministry, and the next ministry, for example, can be Ministry of Tourism, because tourism is a very big thing. Today we engaged UNRWA because of the just simple area of road sector. But now there are other untouched areas of tourism which can be addressed under tourism ministry and the tourism board. And we are not running from nothing. We have the other side of Rwanda, which has developed its industry where we can borrow a reef and then make our requests or our petitions to government and see what can work. You never know, there are things that can change just by waking up one Zoom and we speak to the country and authority. So I conclude by saying, thank you for the effort. This is all we needed, by the way. I'm happy that we are doing exactly what Ubuntu I wanted to do, to just become a big force, another big voice for the people of Kisoro. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, the chairs we have, Chairman of District, Chairman Ubuntu. Thank you, the UNRWA team, and thank you all for spending your time. It's a working day.
And moderator, we have been having the cow on this line. He has been with us.
Oh, thank you, the Chief Administrative Officer Kisoro. We had just expected the RDC. Thank you so much for listening in. We registered 102 members at one time. We are closing at 94. Like I said, for a working day, that's a sacrifice that we acknowledge and appreciate. Just for information, District Chair, you talked about Tourism Board. The Executive Director Tourism Board has been talked to, and it's now up to us to get an opportune time to host her in a similar engagement, and that is going to happen. Again, thank you so much, and stay blessed in the rest of the day and the week.
88.9 Voice of Muhabura FM.
Abakun muriyo
turiyo buzima nihorere no businje byenka kwa kwakira konka chibitwera alikirire wabaje
bwenu ko kundeka to kundeba mubiri nyona beka yanje mibiri yona yatishobaho nareba na nyakwenkuru nukwari konka shimwe kumunyirire nimuchikora muta
itwa chama twakimanya kare
nyibizaho niyo mutahi wanje wunyesiga
washabe state bujimbi chama ni chogero habo products amajuta na sabuni torareba bana no mucara kana